I obviously have a rare condition called Fedricks Attacica. 2 years to get a diagnosis. I'm a model, an actress, a writer, a painter.
Disability is just basically a massive, unique selling point.
One thing bothers me.
By nature, if you took me out of the disability, I'm quite an impulsive person, but my disability has turned me into a complete plan freak.
Got to do like 50 things at once. I think my biggest wake-up call was the accessibility. Either that or you're like fetishized.
We've subjected ourselves to this, we've kind of got to just do it.
Who raised you? Don't waste time and tears worrying about things you can't change.
Today's guest, Dee Smith, is a disability content creator and model who also has Fedricks Attacica. Just to let you guys know, there is some technical issues towards the end of this episode, so anyone watching on YouTube, I do apologise, but it's still a really great conversation surrounding some of the misconceptions when it comes to disability and the modelling world and what that is really like. So I really do hope you enjoy this episode, so please sit back, relax and enjoy. Welcome to the Not Quite Podcast. I'm Charlie Randall. Let's get ready to rewrite the rulebook. Welcome back to the Not Quite Pod. Today we've got Dee with us. Dee, do you want to quickly introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are, what you do, and just a bit about yourself?
Well, you said it. I'm Dee. I obviously have a rare condition called Fedricks Attacica. I was diagnosed with it at 18. And I kind of do all sorts. I'm a model, an actress, a writer, a painter. I can do everything creative.
Quite a list.
No.
I must admit, I don't know how you get through the work that you get through though. Like I wouldn't last 5 minutes doing all of those things and trying to keep on top of everything. I wouldn't last 5 seconds.
Do you know what? I think it's because I've got ADHD, so I have scatterbrain. So one thing bothers me. So I've got to do like 50 things at once, or I just don't want to do it anymore.
That makes sense. I suppose variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
So like it keeps you ticking. So tell us a bit more about your condition. So you, from what you just said, it was quite a late diagnosis. So how does your condition sort of affect you? How does it present? What are some like daily challenges that you have? Just a bit more about it.
Well, obviously, I'd never heard of it, and a lot of people have never heard of it. I noticed something was wrong at like 16, 17, because it was getting harder, or I had to focus more on balance and coordination and things like that, and I didn't really know what was going on. And then obviously we went to the doctors and we pushed it because they're like, oh, it's rare. Well, yeah, but you know, something's wrong here. And it took us, God, 2 years to get a diagnosis.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time. It's basically how I describe it. It's mobility and coordination, so balance. And obviously it can affect speech and things. It's like MS. It moves the same as MS, but obviously different cause, and it's not episodic.
That's really interesting. So like I can imagine it was quite a journey to sort of adapt once you got the diagnosis of, oh, okay, so this is the thing now and this is how I need to think slightly differently. So I'd imagine, did that take forgive me if it's too personal, but did that take quite a toll on your mental health?
No, it's fine. It did, because I think obviously 17 to 18 is like your formative years. It's when you're like almost an adult and you've got the world at your feet and you think you're invincible, and then you get slapped with that and it's kind of like, oh, okay. So now I've got to kind of reassess everything, and it took a while. It took a while to kind of come to terms with it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just understanding that my body functions differently than others. But it is a fight when you're that age. You think your life's over. Very dramatic, you know.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's like the big years. It's the years that normally you'd go out clubbing, you'd do this, that, the other. You're trying stuff out, and yeah, so like I mean, I'm always intrigued because obviously for someone like myself, having my condition since I was like teeny tiny and being
Yeah,
like yeah, so like well, as I was saying, for me, I'm always intrigued by people that obviously go through the journey you went through because as someone who has had that condition since they were young, I don't know any different. To me, like people go to me, "What's it like?" And I'm like, "Well,
yeah,
it's like being
yeah.
Charlie. Like I don't know any other way to explain it. Like, what's it like to walk? I don't.
I
Yeah,
understand that. It's like people that are born deaf. They don't know any different. Um, but it was strange. Obviously because your body is completely changing, and I went from like
yeah,
doing dance and gymnastics and being very physical and active to kind of like my body can't do that anymore. And it's kind of mourning your old self in a way. Uh,
yeah,
it's sad, but at the same time, you've come to understand and accept what you can do now. You can't cry about things you can't change, and it's going to be a lot of wasted tears if you do.
yeah. That's very true. And like, I think as well, like often people. I mean, obviously, my situation is very different, but. People always ask me like, would you hand your disability back? And obviously, it is a very different journey for me. But I'm often answer that question with
So,
no. But the reason I answer no is because there's so many cool opportunities and people that I've met. Because I'm the guy, a ginger guy in a wheelchair that yeah, that was my whole thing, and that's how I got my foot in the door. I mean, we both went to
yeah,
London Fashion Week, representing Unhidden, and like those opportunities. I'm like, like
it's
what the
great.
fuck? There is no way able-bodied Charlie was like, yeah, you know what? I'm modelling for
Yeah,
Unhidden and Kurt Deiger and Lucy and Yak.
it's it,
What? That
yeah,
doesn't.
exactly
Yeah,
the same. And when people say, "Would you take it back?" No, I wouldn't. Because I don't think I'd have the same thought process. I don't think I'd be the same person. And like you said, I don't think I'd have the same opportunities given and to do what I am doing. So I wouldn't take it back,
yeah,
and I think everything happens for a reason. And you may not notice it, you may not realize it, but we all have a path, and this is that.
yeah. I think the weirdest thing about it is like the amount of times I sit there and go, seriously, when you think about it, disability is just basically a massive, unique selling point.
It is. It is. Because obviously I've been talking to like agencies and things, and they're quite interested in disability now because obviously they want representation, which is great.
Yep.
But it is a selling point. It's like it sounds awful, but most people are able-bodied. You don't really
Yeah.
stand out, and I think when you have a disability, it is downside sometimes. But in the industry and creative media and things like that, it's becoming more and more prevalent, and it's you're disabled. Well, we're kind of looking for that, so it's becoming
Yeah.
something that people want.
I always find it weird as well. Like I always think back, like, what would I be like if I was able-bodied? Like, what would I do? What would be my thing? And then I always come back to like I come from quite a football
Yeah,
family, like that's our thing. It'd be like, oh, I would have tried to be a professional footballer, failed miserably probably, and then ended up in doing some other random
yeah,
stuff. And then when I think back to like when I think to where I'm at now, I'm like, meanwhile, half of the shit that I get up to is the most random stuff
right.
you'll ever do in
I
your
mean, how
life.
random is it that we did London Fashion Week? That is so fucking random and just
Yeah.
incredible. And I just sit there, I did that. I did that.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Because I think as well in able-bodied people's heads, I'd imagine if you're like, obviously you've done some modelling, whereas for me, London Fashion Week was my first experience of modelling. Never done it before. It was very new to me. But so, like for most people, able-bodied, if you're like appearing at London
Yeah,
Fashion Week, you're a model. That's your well, I'd imagine you're a model. That's your profession. You've worked to
yeah,
get to that point. Not saying we haven't worked to get to that point, but particularly for someone like me, I'm just some influencer dude that suddenly Victoria was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, can we borrow you for a
And
day?"
you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's something you never think would happen, but when it did, you're like, okay, I'll do it. I think,
Yeah,
do you know what's funny? I don't know where I'd be if I was able-bodied. I genuinely have no idea. Because who I am now is who I am, and I've never really given it much
yeah.
thought. Because I think you,
I also, I,
you go,
I also think like my diverse way of thinking wouldn't be there. Like, so obviously I've met so many cool people and so many people with different conditions, different backgrounds, different races, different sexualities. Like half of the people, I like obviously you come across these people in life, but I think you kind of get fast tracked in it being in the social media world. You're like, oh, I know this person that's got this thing, or
yeah,
this person that identifies as this, or this. It's like, yeah,
I
it's weird. It's a weird thing.
you wouldn't have the way of thinking you do now, and I think that's a
No.
good thing. And I think other people may not have that because it's not given to them. It's like before I kind of had a disability. I think you don't look at it, you don't see it, and you don't acknowledge it,
Yeah.
and then when it happens to you, it really becomes your kind of compass for everything, your guidepost in a way.
Yeah. What was your biggest wake up call? Like when obviously you found out that you had a condition and then that you were gonna eventually basically become a wheelchair user. What was your biggest um like realization? Because a lot of people that obviously come into the disabled community later in life go, Jesus Christ, I didn't know half the stuff that you guys had to deal with. So what was your biggest like thing with that?
Mine was, I think my biggest wake up call was the accessibility. It's not,
Mm,
it, it really isn't available to a lot of wheelchair users, and that was a big wake up call. You know, you have to, if you go to an establishment, can have to check ahead or make sure they have access or accommodation, or there are some locations you can no longer go to, and it's sad, but it really opens your eyes.
mm. It's that it kills impulsivity. Like, oh, so like, by nature, if you took me out of the disability, I'm quite an impulsive person. But my disability has turned me into a
Yeah,
complete plan freak.
yeah, I have to plan. I used to be able to go, and now it's like, nope, I need this, and this to be done. I need to know all of this. I can't just go because I'll have a meltdown. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. No, I think as well there's that anxiety, it's that social anxiety that comes with, oh shit, are they going to have a disabled toilet? Are they going to have a ramp that I can use? Am I going to be able to get to the table properly? Or are they all going to be really tall? Like one of my pet hates is pubs. Why does every blast all have to be
Yeah,
15 feet high?
it's like a big table, and you're just there, and the table's here, and you're like,
Yeah. And you're like to your mate, can you pass me my
yeah,
drink because I can't
it's
reach it?
ridiculous, and it's alright when you don't always trust what they say when like, oh, we're accessible, and it's like, oh, you sure,
Yeah.
because their accessibility is not
Yeah.
yours.
My favourite thing was I rung a restaurant once. And I rang up and said, like, have you got a disabled toilet? And the lady's response was, oh, the manager's not in. I'm not sure. And I'm like, literally, Karen, just walk round the corner. Like, it's not rocket
Yeah, you should
science.
know this.
And then I actually went to the place in the end, and there was a disabled toilet. And I'm like, so literally, you could have just literally gone,
That you could.
yes, there is. Yeah, yeah. Just some people,
They
you just
make it
can't work
all
them
that.
out. But yeah, they do. They make it harder, and then also they're like, "Oh, we've never had anyone like you before," and I'm
Thanks.
like me
Like,
before,
well,
but you've never had a ginger before. Is that what you mean?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like we've never had one of you, and it makes you feel like an alien. Like, oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
What's the one thing that you wish you could like explain to Joe Public and say this is my condition. This is how it affects. What's the one thing that you really want to be able to just be like, okay, can we just get this out the way, like so everyone knows, so it's just done.
I'm normal. I can function. I can function probably differently than you do, but I can still function. I can cook. I can
Yeah,
clean. I can live. I live on my own. Like, I do all of this. Crazy, I know, but it's insane how many people don't know that, or they're not aware of that, or that it's like
yeah,
surprising to them that you're an
yeah,
independent person. They're like, hang on a minute, what?
yeah. It's like that whole thing of like, oh wow, you're out with
Yeah.
friends enjoying
And you're
yourself.
like, hmm?
Yeah, what was I meant to be doing? But it's that whole thing of just wishing that we weren't this alien
Yeah,
species that like, oh wow, like you do all the normal stuff. Like I always love it. Like, I mean, you met my
yep,
partner, and I just love that. That's the whole thing. The first thing they ask me is like, oh wow, you got a girlfriend, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah.
don't you?
Why is that a big shock? And then the other thing is like, oh, but she's not your a carer or assistant, and I'm like,
No.
no, she definitely identifies as my girlfriend.
She'll thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't think she'd enjoy being called my. Actually, she doesn't mind being called my PA. She doesn't like being called my
Yeah,
assistant. No,
exactly.
my carer. She doesn't like carer.
No, because it's crazy to me how many people don't know disabled people can date and do any of that, and it's nuts.
I mean, as well. I mean, I've been open on my platform, and people are probably like, "Stop dragging that back up." But I always find it funny. Like people always go like, straight first question they ask. So, are you? Can you guys do it? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that yeah,
why? Why is it always that
yeah.
question?
It's like
It's
either
just
that or you're like fetishized. It's a
yeah,
weird thing they want to like tick off the list. Do you know what I mean? It's either
yeah.
one or the
It's
other,
weird.
and you're like, God.
It's also weird. Like I spoke to Brooke Millhouse on the podcast before, and she spoke. Obviously, she's got a limb
Yeah,
difference, so she was like, "Oh yeah, that gets fetishized all the time." And I'm like, "Really?"
yeah,
Like, it's just strange. And then I also question as well because. I mean, I haven't had too much of it, so I can't really say. But I always wonder as well because often you hear it more so with straight females receiving it from guys, and I'm like, why are guys so weird?
yeah.
Why are we just so strange?
Yeah, it's not fun when you get a creepy message. You're like, what, who raised you? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just
Have you got much of that online? In terms of, have you got much of people being weird with
oh
to
my
you?
god, yeah, you get it, and it's. I think when I first started, it knocks you off your feet a bit because you're like, what? But then I think now it's like, oh great, another one.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. And I just kind of delete now, whereas before I used to be like, what is wrong with you? But now it's like, yeah.
Yeah, don't give
Yeah,
them the time of day.
that's what.
Just hit delete. But it's the same with me with negative comments and people trying to
Yeah,
like stir up stuff. Like I had one guy on TikTok that was like, I can't remember what it was. Something like um it was just like it was a post about me and Gina dating, and then the response was, "But he can't walk though," and I'm like, I mean, yeah, you are correct.
well done.
However, why is that? Why is that what you're latching onto? Oh, we can't walk. No shit,
Well done.
Sherlock.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well done.
it's
Got an
just
award.
strange. Strange. What? So, what got you into social media?
It was a total accident. I did a boudoir shoot when I was like 19 for more confidence than anything. And I posted it as you do on social media, and then
Yeah,
it kind of took off, and other photographers wanted to work with me, and I was like, hang on a minute, I could do something positive. And I put
mm,
poetry
that's
with photo shoots, and it kind of just went from there. And people liked it, so I thought, okay, this works. I'll do this.
That's amazing. So the modelling just came from you looking for a little bit of a confidence
Kind of
boost, a
broke
little bit
up.
of seeing what it's all
I broke
about.
up with obviously my partner, and I was really, very down about it, and that I did that, and a career.
The whole thing of showing what he's
Yeah,
missing. That whole yeah. I know that. I know that phase. I know that
it
phase.
worked because that now I have kind of a very weird career out of it. That kind of just spawned out of nowhere.
Swings and
It
roundabouts, isn't it?
does.
You just it's that as things come out of the most random things.
Yeah.
And so people always, particularly coming back to the dating thing, people always come say to me like, "Oh, how did you date?" And I'm like, literally, if I tell you the story of me and Gina, it's just the most random stuff. How people think I'm just scrolling on Tinder, and I'm like, no, like my friend went to a job interview, met this random person, was like, oh, you'd get along with my friend Charlie. Cue the next 6 years of my
Oh,
life.
that's almost like meet cute. It's like a romantic comedy. You should do that.
Oh, literally, if I told you, if I like got everyone to act out what happened with me and Gina, I'd probably make some money.
Do
I
it.
probably would.
Go for it. That's awesome. Though. I think best things happen by accident, and you don't know they're happening until they do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I completely get you. On that note, like, is there anything that you'd give advice you'd give to your like? I always find this question intriguing, but is there any advice that you'd give your younger self?
God. Don't waste time and tears worrying about things you can't change.
It's good advice. It's really good advice. It's like my one I often come back to is particularly in the disabled community. If you can get yourself to a point where you accept your disability a little bit more, that's the position you really need to be in because that's when you can unlock a, not your true
Yeah.
self because like there's other steps involved, but you'll take a step towards that direction
Yeah,
of really being like, this is me.
and I think as well, as soon as you start to accept that, you stop kind of caring what people think. And I think a
Yeah.
big thing for me was like leaving the house and wondering what people would think, and like it, and why would you let a person's 2-second thought ruin your entire day?
Exactly. Like it's really hard because I think as well, often people are like, oh, when I say that, it's like I'm expecting you to accept your condition and then never have a bad day ever in your
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, no, that's never gonna happen. Even if you're able-bodied or disabled, you're gonna have shit days and you're gonna have good
Oh
days.
yeah.
But it's just getting to that point where you're in a better position than you was in. It's like with me, I always relate it back to like if oftentimes as a disabled person, I'm sure you got it yourself. People stare, people might give you weird looks, and some days that really doesn't bother me. I'm like, oh, here we go
Yeah.
again. Like it's neither here nor there. But then other days, I'm like, oh, okay, that's really
It
annoyed me
can,
today.
yeah, it puts you on edge. But I think, like you said, that is the same with everyone. Everyone's gonna have good days,
Mm.
bad days, and we're no different.
It's true. It is very true. What was like so before your diagnosis? What was growing up like for you? Obviously, you mentioned previously that you've got a diagnosis of ADHD as well. So was that when you were younger,
No,
or was that around the same time?
that was
Or
last year. And
wow, so a very late diagnosis.
yeah, very late. And I think with girls, it's often misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed,
Yeah.
or but I knew something was never right. I was like, I knew that was always something. So yeah, it's adapting to that as well. Good.
Have you found that the diagnosis has helped in terms of because you've got almost a label for it and you can identify it? It's almost giving you coping mechanisms to go with it.
Yes. And not only that, now because I know what it is, I can search out other people and find out what they do, maybe, and if it might work for me, and I can try different things and hopefully learn from what they're doing, and maybe it helps me. Because before then, if you don't have a label, you're kind of stuck and you're guessing a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, and it's that whole thing of it helps you find a community. Like I remember, as I mentioned to you before we start recording, about the topic interable relationships. I remember speaking about it on another podcast, and the interesting thing it was with George Dow, who obviously he had his car
Yeah,
accident and became a wheelchair user after that. And he was basically saying that when he started dating, he didn't know where to look to find people like him in a similar situation. So he just Googled
yeah,
interabled relationships because he thought that's the most logical way of phrasing it. And then that's how we found that there were other people out there similar to
yeah.
him. And that's where I think labels help. Like obviously we're trying to get away from labeling people too much, but then also on a certain level, labels help us
I
figure
agree.
out what the fuck's going
Yeah,
on.
That's exactly what I did when I was diagnosed. I kind of searched out, and you find the community.
I think it definitely helps. Is there anything like what did was there anything that you were like, oh my god, this has really helped me? Was there like a strategy or a thing that really helped you, or has it just been nice to find people in a similar
I
situation to
think
you?
when you find people in a similar situation, because everyone with FA is different, but even then, it makes you feel less alone and like it's not just happening to you.
Yeah, but I can imagine that. Was school challenging? Obviously, having not been diagnosed and not having that support system for you, was that quite a challenge?
Well, obviously, when I was diagnosed, I started university, and that was quite difficult. But the university
Mm,
was great, and they really helped me out and understood and made sure I was taken care of. So when I did my undergraduate and then my postgraduate, they really were wonderful, and they understood that there were some things I could do and some things I couldn't, which is
yeah.
nice because that may not always be available to others.
Yeah, I think as well. There's often like fear of it, finding the right universities. They don't have like a, from what I've heard, they don't have like a uniform way of
Yeah,
dealing with it. They kind of go, some ones are good at it,
yeah,
some ones aren't. It's the same with schools. Like
oh,
there are some schools that are really good with disabilities, others that are shit.
I agree.
And I'd imagine it's very similar.
I mean, one of my tutors, I think it helped. One of my tutors was a amputee. She
All
had a
right.
prosthetic
Oh,
leg,
cool.
and I think, even though it's a different disability, she kind of
Yeah.
understood how it affected me a little bit. So they were, I think it helped having that.
Yeah, no, I think. Oh, sorry, I think there was a bit of delay there, but it's that whole thing of having a disability or having someone around that's got a disability, whether it's the same as yours or
Yeah,
not, is massive because even though we don't like, for example, I don't understand the neurodiverse community because I'm not. Well, I don't think I'm part of that. There might be news to the contrary that I'm not aware of. Um, but yeah, I'm not part of that community. But then there's a level of understanding of the challenges that each party
yeah,
go through because we've all gone through slightly similar situations of that whole finding a way to navigate this weird and wonderful world.
yeah.
And I think you can find a lot of comfort in that because you're like, okay, this person doesn't completely get me, but they
But
sort
then
of get it to a set in an extent.
you feel less alone through it. And I
Yeah.
think that's why communities are so important. But also, I think every school, every board, every kind of establishment should have a disabled person so they can at least give their 2 cents on how the world works for us. Even though we're all different, but a
Mm.
little bit of information would help.
Yeah, it's like I often come back to the thing of like I might not be able, as I say, I might be not be able to comment on any issues surrounding the neurodiverse community, but I'm more than likely to be able to point you in the direction of someone that
Yeah,
can because I've moved in that space.
no, exactly, 100%.
And that's the thing. It's like you say, businesses, schools, we all just need more people in the power seats that have
Yeah,
disabilities. Whether that be like, you don't have to be the CEO of the company or the lead
no.
person. Even just an advisor to be able to go, actually, that's a dumb idea
Yeah,
for the disabled community, and here's why.
yeah, I agree. And hopefully that's what we're all working towards. So hopefully it works.
Fingers crossed. Fingers. I think as well. It's getting better. Like people have asked me before, like, aren't don't you feel like you're fighting a losing battle? And don't get me wrong, I don't think we're going to get to a point where everything's perfect. Definitely not in my lifetime.
Definitely.
But if I can make some form of impact to be like, I sort of helped fix this problem. It's not perfect, but I
But
sort
I
of
hope
helped.
that, yeah, I think that is a little goes a long way in that sense. Like,
Exactly.
you're never going to change all of the world, but, a small part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Rome was, isn't it? Rome wasn't
But
built in a day,
definitely
is the normal
that
saying, isn't
way,
it?
and it fell a few times. So we kind of have to keep going.
I say you just got to keep plugging away and as well like enjoy the and don't want to sound like you're cliche entrepreneur, but enjoy the
Yeah,
process.
the
Enjoy the
journey is,
yeah
I think, probably 90% of it.
yeah.
Definitely.
The chase is always more fun when you get there. It's kind of
Right.
like oh, it's kind of like that thing of like you buy a new you've got in your head you're gonna
Yeah.
buy a new phone and that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna do and then you get it and you're
Now
like
what?
great. What do I
Yeah,
do now?
you've got it. You're like, what do I'm bored now. I want something else to
Yeah
do.
yeah. That is my worst. Completely off topic, but that is my worst
That's
trait of
mine as
like. So
well.
I have like. So I in when did I think? I think. So I ordered a new car quite a while back, and it kept getting pushed back because of things that happened in the pandemic. And basically, the guy said, "Oh, it should be delivered on." I can't remember what month it was, but it was a month. He's like, "Yeah, it should be delivered in this month on this day." And I'm like, "Great." Then I got a phone call to be like, you're not going to get it and it's going to be another couple of months. And I was like, oh, damn it. And the worst thing is, this is my most childish thing. I'm like, oh, but I was expecting a new toy. So I went out and bought a new phone because I was like, I want a new toy and I want something to fill the gap.
Yeah.
And went out and bought a new phone. Not saying that's the wise thing to do or everyone's in the position where they can do that, but just an insight into my head
Yeah.
and how stupid my brain can be
I'm
sometimes.
terrible, and I think my worst trait is, like you said, once you get it, I'm bored. I
Yeah.
want something else
It's the
to do
chase.
something else.
It's the chase.
Yeah, all the way.
The chase is the fun
It is.
bit. What's the weirdest question you've been asked about your disability?
Can you still have sex?
Yeah, that's yeah. I think everyone's about the same. I think, although I have heard some more wacky ones. Yeah, that is often one of the ones. Although, do you go down the route of serious answer, or do you go down the route of funny
It depends
answer?
what mood I'm in. If I'm bored,
Yeah, I'm the
that'll
same.
kind of entertain myself. Uh,
Yeah,
but normally it's like, look, can you? And then
yeah.
if you say that
Or
to someone, they get really offended, and it's like you just.
yeah,
So it's okay for you to
yeah,
ask me, but I can't ask you. What?
yeah. I remember. Oh, one of my favorites when I was single was, "Do you want to find out?"
Oh.
Because I just say I just see and watch them squirm
Yeah,
and be like,
they're
oh
like,
no, 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 no,
uh,
no.
it's
Yeah, no, thank you.
respectful, which is, I think, they don't realize how tone deaf it is. They really don't. I don't
Yeah,
think they're meaning harm, but I just think
no,
it's coming
no.
from not a well-meaning place sometimes.
I think it's hard because it's just like this is often what I end up talking about on this one. It's always just people's inquisitive. I can't even say it.
Inquisitive.
Anyway, I'm gonna
Yeah,
yeah, inquisitiveness of being like, I want to find out this, and it's because they might
yeah,
not have met someone that they can be like, does a
yeah,
disability affect this?
definitely. But
But I think as well, like it's that whole thing of it's hard because it's that whole argument of why does every disabled person have to be an educator on disability?
there's a
And I kind
job.
of I get both sides. I get both sides of the argument because I'm like, yeah, we shouldn't have to like if you're not that way inclined and don't want to be an educator and you don't want to be
Yeah,
screamy, shouty, get talking about your disability. That's
fine.
within your
Yeah.
right to be.
I think
Yeah.
in a way it's like an actor. It's like it's their job, but they shouldn't be on 24/7. So if they want to advocate, that's great, but they shouldn't be on 24/7, and you shouldn't feel like it's your right to ask them everything. Like they should have moments where they can, and where they shouldn't have to. Like it's a,
Yeah, it's yeah, and I think that you've hit the nail on the head. It's that whole thing of like if I can't think, why can't I think of any famous person? God, okay, if Brad Pitt's out for dinner, like leave him alone.
yeah.
Like if he's out for dinner with his partner, his whatever,
Don't ask
just
for
leave him
my
the hell
luck,
alone.
you know. Let
Yeah,
him.
just don't be like, yo, can I get an
Yeah,
autograph? Like this is and the worst thing is there is some element of like at the end of the day you're in the public eye, but that's not the same for the
yeah.
disabled community. I mean, it's different for people like yourself and me who do a lot of
Mhm.
advocacy online and are on social media. That's different. We've subjected ourselves to this. We've kind of got to just do
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
But I think yeah, it's that's a weird one. It's that whole why do we all have to educate when but then and again, I've spoke about this several times on the podcast, and I'd be interested to see what you think. It's that whole thing. My worry is if someone asks me about my disability and I'm very standoffish or to borderline like aggressive, my worry is if I'm like that to an individual that's never been exposed to
Yeah,
someone with a disability
assume
before.
that we're all like that. Yeah,
Yeah, that is my worry, and that's almost the weight that we bear, and I hate that because
yeah,
it's like they're like, no, but that's their problem. But then I'm like, no, but then often you would make
yeah.
the same assumption. Like if, for example, if a group of guys, if a group of friends are hanging around and one guy's an asshole, without
You'll assume
unless
that.
being proven otherwise, yeah, you're gonna assume that okay, because he's a knob, all of
Yeah,
his friends are gonna be a
exactly.
knob.
And you're not gonna want to go talk to them, and that's not true. But I get entirely what you mean. It's you feel kind of not. I don't know the word. I don't know the word. But you feel like it's your job.
Yeah. It's hard
Yeah,
as well because again we come back to that point of like why should we always be on? But then so we almost do always have to be on because let's say I'm having a bad day and I'm like fuck you,
yeah,
Karen, and
yeah.
I
Going off on, yeah.
it's it's not going to be good
No,
because then it's just going to be all disabled people are bitter,
yeah,
horrible, and don't want to talk to anyone.
and then you've kind of done it to the whole community. So the way like
Yeah.
gotta kind of be on my best behaviour, even though I don't want to be.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think as well as having that understanding with yourself of being like, look, I'm going to give you the bare
Yeah,
minimum because I'm really not feeling it today. But it's hard because it's almost why do we have to hold that responsibility for the community? But then also without doing that, we're not making it better
yeah,
for ourselves.
eh,
So it's a weird one.
yeah. It's a double standard in a way.
Yeah, what do you think we should do? Like, obviously, yeah, what do you think we should do in that situation of? Because as well, the other thing I come back to is like there's content creators out there that are maybe in my opinion are a little bit more advocacy than me. Like I'm very happy go lucky. Like I will chat about anyone. If you want to interrogate me about my sex life, I can show
Yeah,
you 3 videos that I've produced. So there you go. So I haven't really got a choice to be able to go, oh no, I've got issues discussing these topics. But it's hard because I think if you're too shouty as well, that's another
yeah.
issue. So
But
yeah, what would be your best way forward?
I think allow room for both. So have people that are advocates and have people that aren't. So they understand that we're not all to kind of
Yeah,
explain the situation. We're not all there for it. Does that make
yeah. I mean, It's hard. I think you hit the nail on the head the other day earlier when you said about the point of like being able to redirect to someone else
Yeah,
to say, "You look, I can't speak on this, but someone else can." So, like for example, if you're an individual that's not comfortable discussing your disability, then point them in the
yeah,
direction of us two that
can
are
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I'll do that. That's
yeah.
me. That's me. I'll take that one."
Point them out to maybe advocates that can explain, or people that are. So I think there should be like again, like celebrities. There are people that do that, and then there are people that don't do that. And
Yeah, yeah,
you should understand that it's a job for different people.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. It is very true. And actually, one thing I'm going to ask is what. So modeling, obviously, it's seen as quite archaically seen as a very like
Yeah,
weird place. I don't know how to word it. Like it seemed like a very. It seemed there's a very like clicky. You've got to work your
yeah,
way in. How's your experience? Like you said earlier, that disabled, like you're often finding that people want to work with disabled people because they're looking for getting into
yeah.
the diversity space. So tell us a bit more about like how that what that journey's been like as well, and sort of your experience of producing the modelling and the photos that you do produce. Yeah, so I probably phrase that question terribly,
No,
but I hope that you get what I mean.
I think it um let the photographers come to you. The ones that want to work with you, they'll come to you, they'll reach out. But I think it's an education process for both people to kind of,
Yeah,
they want to learn, they want to understand. So if there are things that you can't do, or circumstances that you're not comfortable with, then you should tell them. And I think it
yeah.
from just find the ones that want to work with you, they'll reach out instead of kind of going to search out and forcing it, because then you're not always going to get your best interests.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like there's good eggs and there's bad eggs.
Right.
Like, yeah, and also like you hear so many horror stories, particularly with modeling. Like I had one guy that I knew who had some right creep reach out to him, and it's like so that's the other thing as well. You don't know
Yeah.
who's legit
Yeah.
and who's not. There are definitely genuine photographers out there that are looking
But never
to just do
oh,
something different. Yeah,
100%.
it's it's weird. Like as I say, that's the one bit that does scare me a little bit with the modeling world. I'm a bit like there are so many creepy
Yeah,
people. But then there's so many creepy people in so many aspects of life, so I don't know why I'm worried about it.
definitely. There is. I think the one thing I always look for is references.
Yeah,
Make sure they've always got references, and if they haven't, don't work with them.
that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. It's like anyone. You wouldn't hire someone and be like, oh yeah, they didn't get any
Yeah,
references. That's weird, but I'm gonna
I'll
hire them
trust them.
anyway.
Yeah, it's. I know it's hard to build up a portfolio, but you don't want to get the wrong person, because if you do, that will be dangerous, or it might put you off the career path. Then yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not. What's one thing that many people don't know about you that they might find surprising?
Oh God. Even though I have ADHD, and even though I go 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 all the time, and that's who I am, I love the silence.
Wow, that's really interesting. I wouldn't have predicted that. That's wow,
Yeah,
yeah. I suppose as well, like if you're go 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 all the time, it's like whoa. I'd really appreciate some peace and quiet right now.
yeah. I love the silence. A book and just nothing. To me, it's heaven. But obviously, people may not think that about me, because when they meet me, I am very extroverted. But at the
Yep.
same time, I'm an introvert, and I prefer to be an introvert, but I can flip between two if need be.
Yeah. it's that whole thing of everyone needs time to recharge. And it's funny enough, actually. I spoke to Laura earlier in the week from London Fashion
Yeah,
Week, and we were talking about London Fashion Week, and I don't know whether you had the same experience. I got to about 3 o'clock, and
yeah,
my social energy just dropped.
yeah.
I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to speak to
Well,
anyone. I just want to
I
sleep.
don't know. I don't know about you either, but obviously, it's I when you enter that room for the first time, and there's like hair and makeup and clothing, and it's full of people, and it's just cameras, and it's a wall, like
Yeah,
everything. It's just like
yeah.
whoa, all at once.
Yeah, it was great. It's like one of my favorite memories, and I still love what my brain did to me that day was. So I got my hair. I think you arrived slightly later, but I got my hair and make. I was getting my hair done, and then Oliver, obviously, he was doing stuff with the
Yeah,
cameras. And anyway, Oliver's came over and introduced himself. Said, "Oh, like, hi, I'm Oliver. This." And we were just chatting away, and I didn't think anything of it. And bear in mind, I'm like half up, half down. Half my hair is in braids, half it's not. And then, I'm like noticing the cameras are just slowly
yeah.
descending on mine and Oliver's position, and I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. I need to switch to proper Charlie. Okay.
Camera around, yeah, and that was the same with me because everything's happening all at once. You're not fully aware of everything, and then you're talking, and you've got like a camera, or you've got someone
Yeah.
photos, and it's a bit like, well,
And also, did you find the same thing with? I don't. Maybe it's because I didn't know. Obviously, now I know a load of the guys, so I didn't know a lot of people in the room. So there was a lot of me trying to like figure
yeah,
out who to connect to first to be like, right, can you introduce
yeah.
me to this person?
It's nerve wracking. It kind of felt like school all over again.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, where is my little crew? Like, where's
100%. Oh, yeah, it was a lot, and it kind of it retrained you in a way because I think you've gone that long without doing any of that, and then when it kind of hits you, you're like, okay,
Yeah, it does. Like literally, I mean, I think everyone put in the group chat. Does everyone else feel
yeah,
hungover, or is it just me? Like it was just a whirlwind
it really
day,
was
and also a very long day. It was a very long day. Like, what
day,
time
but
did you
when
guys stay in? Did you guys stay in London?
no, we actually travelled down and travelled back.
Jesus
I
Christ, sod that.
I know.
No, thank you. None of that. Thank. What time did you get home?
3 in the morning.
Oh, I mean, as it is, like I left at 1. So, oh no,
Oh
oh
God,
no, oh.
it was. I think you want to get home, and I think you're that just drained and just depleted, and I think everyone was the same.
It was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved it. It was great. It was such a great experience. But oh my god, it was so tired. I mean, I can't imagine how tired Victoria and the
Uh,
crew must have been. Like, oh, just it was a, it
it
was
was
an
a lot.
experience and a
I
half.
mean, a lot. Yeah, a lot of people are never gonna have that or experience that, and we did, and it was crazy, and it like
Yeah,
you said, it was a long day, but it went fast.
yeah, yeah. It went really far. So, and I think as well, it was there was a lot of mingling. That was a lot
Uh,
of the day. And I think that's where, as I said earlier, that's where like my social energy eventually
went
just went
down.
boom. Yeah,
It was bad. I
it
think
was.
everyone one was the same. Kind of towards the end, we were all like, "Nope."
I bet you got home and like wanted to sit in silence
Yeah,
for like half an
I
hour.
was like, "I'm done." No one talked to me.
Give me a book and leave me
Yeah, I
alone.
was like, right, for the whole weekend, the remainder, no one come to the house, no one do anything. Yeah,
what's your book of choice? Like, what's your genre? Where do we tend to
I
lean?
love fantasy. I love fantasy
Oh,
and
so
supernatural. anything to do with that. But I don't know. I read everything, but I've always gone more towards supernatural and fantasy. That's where my heart lies.
I see. I'm a little weirdo. Like, so first of all, I'm dyslexic, so the idea of reading is like, what the? Why would you do this for enjoyment? Like, this is stupid. But then also, I really like it. But then I love an audiobook. If someone reads, like, if you came up to me, Dee, and was like, right, Charlie, tell you what, sit there and I'll read to you. I'd be like,
Go,
happy days.
go. Yeah.
Great. I'm happy with that. So like, I love a good biography. Get me a good biography,
Wow.
and I don't know what it is. I don't know why I find people's lives so interesting when I'm like,
I think it's
am I just boring?
because of the jobs we're in, kind of meeting different people. That might be because we're interested in others' lives, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, it's that whole thing about, probably it's me being nosy, but I wonder how this person like came to where they were gonna be, and like, yeah, it is weird. But no, I think I do. Although when I was a kid, I used to love fantasy because my imagination was mad when I was a kid.
Yeah,
It was
mine
crazy.
hasn't changed. So I love fantasy, but it's got to be done right. And I think there are so many problems with fantasy and things. So when it's done right and you find that really good book, oh, nothing
Mm.
like it.
Is it? It's a hard one, isn't it? Yeah, because I think, yeah, you got to get fantasy between the right. You got to get the right mix between realistic and not
Mm,
realistic, if that makes sense. Like
yeah,
that whole, like, it's different. Like, it's like when I have the whole argument, like something will happen in a TV program, and my mum's like, "Yeah, that wouldn't
yeah,
happen," and I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock. It's a fucking
yeah.
TV program."
All the time with my parents, they've let that one up, and it's TV show.
Yeah,
No
it's
questioning it.
it's literally called
Yeah.
Avatar. Are we really?
Whatever it's like, I get the whole racist thing, but again, I was like the blue people. It's blue
Yeah,
people. It's like with Little
yeah,
Mermaid when everyone was so mad that a black woman was Ariel. It's a mermaid. They're not, you know,
yeah,
it's fish.
yeah. It was. I was literally watching Trevor Noah, the comedian, the other day, and he had a whole thing about like, why was it the fact that it was they changed the skin tone to black was the issue, when it's literally half of her is a fish.
Yeah,
Why is this, like,
and
oh,
you
I
know,
just don't. I didn't
the
understand it.
man falls in love with her is because she can't speak. And no one's questioning the validity of, is this the right thing to show children? No, the only people are mad is that she's black, not the fact that there is a whole other thing that is wrong with it, just the race issue.
It's just some people just can't adapt, can
No,
they? I'm like, also, what grand difference to the
is
story
it?
did
What
it
does it
make?
make? It doesn't make any difference. She's still a
Yeah.
mermaid. The story's still the same. It's not changing.
The only bit it made different was the fact that people of that race could relate to it a
That's
little
it,
bit
and
more.
that's
That's
the
it.
thing.
Exactly. It's so weird. It's so weird how people get so uppity about random changes. I'm like, does it have any drastic impact to you? No.
Exactly.
Leave it
And
alone.
if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other. I'm like, oh,
If you
just
don't like
oh,
something, turn it
people.
off. Don't watch it. Go away.
It's yeah, it's that whole thing of like, why? It's very easy to move away from. It's like that whole thing of like, is this really the thing that you're gonna get
You just
really really shitty
want to
about?
die on, really.
Yeah, is this the sword you want to fall on?
Exactly.
Really? Okay, that's just funny. But talking about like representation, obviously that was an amazing bit of representation for race. Talking of representation in books, have you seen much representation of people with disabilities in books?
No, it's very rare, and 9 times out of 10, the author is not disabled. So if they create a disabled character, it's coming from like dangerous, not real stereotypes and things like
Yeah,
that. It's, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are those out there, but the ones that are big and that get attention, they're not correct and they're quite dangerous.
I'd imagine as well, the assumption that I'd make is I bet you that half of the representation of the same community is the one of like, oh wait, you've got cancer.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a it's like there are multitudes of different conditions that we could cover.
it's like
Like,
the
oh, it's
main
just
one is but me before you, and
yeah. I was
like
literally thinking about
and he
that.
kills himself, and it's like this is the story you want to tell to disabled people. Just kill yourself.
I found that film. I remember watching it with my other half when I think we'd only been together a little while. It was the most distressed I'd ever been watching a film. It was horrible.
It's an amazing story, but not one we
Yeah.
need.
I think as well, it connected far too much that I was like, I'm too close to this.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I really don't like it.
then it's just that I think others don't understand that we don't need that out there. Not at the moment,
No.
anyway.
No, there's enough negativity out there when it comes to
Yeah,
disability. So you don't need that additional. But and as I say, it touched on some really good topics. But
yeah.
yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's not the message we want to
Not
be
when
sharing.
like we need positive and just realistic and not lifting but normalizing it.
So yeah, as I was saying, like it's that whole thing of not making it that having a disability is like,
Yeah,
oh, we need to do this because we need to make disability represented. We It should just be, oh, it just so happens that
it's just
this
that.
character has a disability.
Yeah,
So
it
and
shouldn't be
that's
the
that.
priority. It should kind of just be okay, cool.
Yeah, it's always got to be like with disabilities. It's always got to be like focus content.
Yeah,
It's always got to be, oh, we're gonna focus. Oh, it's like whenever you hear like opportunities come up of like, oh, do you want to come on to TV or radio to talk about disability? And I'm like, why do I always? I mean, it's different for people like us.
yeah.
We that is our whole shtick. But yeah, so why do I always have to talk about this? Talk about disability? I could just talk about the relevant news that week, or
Yeah,
like my
but like okay.
it just seems
They
a bit like,
need
oh,
it,
we
I
need it.
feel. They need to
Yeah,
feel validated in a way.
you need to be feeling like, oh yeah, you're doing a good job. Good
Yeah,
job.
definitely.
It's just weird, but yeah, I'm conscious that obviously we've been going for quite a while now, and I'm conscious that I want to give you back most of your evening.
Yes,
So I'm going to hit you with the last question,
go
which is what's one piece of politically correctness that you really strongly agree with or disagree with? It doesn't have to be disability related. It can be something
me.
completely random.
Mine is people that are scared of like minorities or they've got a thing against transgender or race or disability or they use religion and things as an excuse. They're just scared and
Yeah.
uneducated because anyone that's comfortable in themselves and knowledgeable and they're okay, they're not scared of it, they accept it and they're okay with it. And those that aren't, they are very self-conscious, very misinformed, and just not good people no matter what they say.
Yeah, and I think it's about also normalizing that, like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah,
if it's very different to being standoffish with a part of the community to be or going into the community and just saying, "Look, I don't understand this. Please educate me."
yeah,
I'm 90% sure if you go up to anyone that's transgender, anyone that's a different race, and you say you're actively open to being educated on the
yeah.
topic because you haven't had exposure to it, you've basically given them the free reins. Like, you've not interrogated them, you've not made them feel awkward. You've basically gone, "I'm an idiot. Tell me."
Tell me.
Like,
Also, at the same time, it's like if you don't want to be a transgender, I wouldn't do it. Okay, don't do it.
yeah, yeah.
Don't say it.
It's like saying I don't like mushrooms.
Okay, don't eat them.
Don't Yeah, don't eat them. Like,
No one's
it's
forcing.
that. Yeah, it's that whole weird male. Like it comes back to male thing that I always think of. Like when you find out that one of your friends is gay, and there's this like male complex of like, oh, as
Yeah.
soon as they find out they're gay, oh, they must be hitting on me. I'm like,
No,
no,
no, it's not the
I.
way it works.
It's just weird. It's like oh, as soon as I find out I'm straight, I'm just gonna hit on all my female friends.
Yeah, it's weird to me, and I think it just comes from a lot of insecurity and
Yeah,
fear
it
from
is.
no education.
Yeah, it is. It's that whole thing of people just being like, "Oh, I don't understand this," and that makes me feel uncomfortable. It's because, as we've just said, it's that whole thing of people don't want to feel like
Yeah,
they're an idiot. Whereas
exactly.
I'm like, that's the best place to be. If you feel like an idiot, it means you can learn something.
Exactly. It means you're an open book, and that's a
Yeah,
good thing.
and it means you're self-aware, which is
Definitely.
another thing as well. It means you're self-aware and know that you don't know everything.
Yeah,
Because guess what? No, none of
no
us
one
do.
does. No, exactly.
So it's a very strong point, and I think that's something that people can take away from this episode of just if it's a topic, whether it be disability, race, whatever,
Yeah,
just
it,
be open, just
be
be
open.
open to learning something new
And
and
if you
being
don't like it, don't do it.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and if it doesn't affect you, leave it
Leave
alone.
it
It
alone.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. But anyway, thank you so much for coming
Don't
on.
thank you.
I always give my guests a chance to plug themselves, let people know what they're doing, where they can be followed, and what they're up to. So now's your opportunity to plug away.
I'm D_Smith XOXO at Instagram and Twitter. I do different things. At the moment, I'm doing interviews and articles and whatnot, and that's all obviously on my Instagram. So yeah, I kind of write for different things and speak about different things, and like I said, that I do all sorts. So yeah.
Yep, she's a very frantic one, this one.
Oh yeah, all over the place.
But no, as I say, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. It's been a really
you.
good episode.
Thank you for having
Yeah, it's been really good fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Not Quite Podcast. Please make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram to get regular updates about the podcast.